Arguably the most popular anime character of all time, Goku, people forget he has a dad. I mean, where did Goku get his Saiyan genetics from, right? See, the thing about Saiyans in this Dragon Ball universe, they're like beings that go around to different planets. They're like space pirates. In a weird way, they're kind of not good people, terrorizing planets and homes and stuff. You can look at them like a warrior race. Bardock, the character I'm going over today, has all the stuff that reminds you of a warrior. Plus, he also has some physiological advantages compared to other species. Like, you know how on Earth, just normal humans with enough training and ki control, you can become ridiculously mighty and blast away moons, like Master Roshi, for example. You know how Earth has a certain gravity. First of all, he was born on a planet that has 10 times the gravity of Earth. So just right off gate, he's already raised in a harsh environment. He has a Saiyan tail that allows Saiyans to go into grade 8 mode when they look at the moon and stuff. This transformation already increases his already incredible might times a factor of 10, along with giving him a large great ape sized body, base form, great ape form. There's a big part about the Saiyans in the Dragon Ball Z lore that makes them have a big advantage when it comes to fighting, because they literally take the term that we know about in real life: what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. After nearly dying and after being completely healed afterwards, their power increases ridiculously. Bardock himself talks about how the Saiyans evolve. Just like you're used to, the Dragon Ball universe has this thing known as chi. It's like your life force. If you have enough training, you can manipulate it to, do all kinds of incredible things, like amp up your punches, like how Bardock can do. A lot of characters try to increase their strength with resistance training, so resistance trainings and ki kind of seem like they go hand in hand, or just blast with incredible energy blast, focused energy blast. You might be familiar with the Kamehameha. Bardock has his own version of focused ki energy attacks too. This video will be pretty much focused on the canon Bardock. Yes, that means feats pertaining to him only from Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Z. Like, he literally never appeared in Dragon Ball Z, so there's literally no feats for him there. But Dragon Ball Z acknowledges he exists though, so Dragon Ball Super and the events of Dragon Ball Broly, I know it's indeed canon because the manga does acknowledge the events of Dragon Ball Super Broly in the manga too. So yeah, one of his many opponents he fights, we can literally see Bardock use his muscle, for example, and throw this being way in the air to show his physical muscle. All right off gate, you remember these little Saiyan pods that they travel across the galaxy or universe with? Right off gate, even though he barely has any occasions or showings of feats, we literally see him be able to move freely on this planet Vegeta, which has 10 times the gravity of Earth. This can kind of let you know how strong he is just off gate, and he's holding something heavy while he's just bouncing around. He seems to be holding heavy stuff like this without no type of strain. Like, just from him moving around on planet Vegeta like this with laughable ease, just already off gate, just from him being able to move his own body around, we can kind of get a bare minimum of how much he can just lift just off gate. If we assume he's 130 something pounds on our planet Earth, based on the original Dragon Ball lore, he would be 10 times his weight on, planet Vegeta. Off gate, just from this fact alone of him walking around this planet, he would be able to move around being 1,300 pounds. Or if you want to look at it, hypothetically speaking, if Bardock was a 1,300 pound man, he would technically have the strength to move around freely with ease being this heavy. In a weird way, him being super fat technically wouldn't slow him down based on how strong he is. He can move freely in this planet. These Dragon Ball space pods are not that big, but they're highly advanced technology. Let's just assume they're as heavy as, I don't know, a car or something in Dragon Ball. Like, this would be, what, 2 tons? If we assume, like, yeah, this is a huge assumption, but we don't really know. But, like, if we assume this, like, is 2 tons or something, 2 tons multiplied by 10 would be 20 tons if we assume he's lifting his weight on planet Vegeta. This would imply that Bardock can lift up 20 tons with laughable ease with 1 freaking arm. So 2 arms, it would be 40 tons, which makes sense with Dragon Ball lore. Let's deep dive into it. I mean, remember what Raditz did against Goku in his early days. Like, Goku had to literally resort to grabbing his tail to even get the advantage over Raditz. So Bardock was even stronger than this. I mean, Gohan literally had to have a berserk moment and damage Raditz really badly for Goku to even clash with Raditz's muscles and even restrain him. So, yeah, Bardock's even worse. I know it's hard to believe, guys, but there was a point in time where Bardock was actually stronger than Goku. I know that's hard to believe, but yeah, I guess you can kind of get an idea on what Bardock can lift based on his muscle and stuff, based on what the stuff we've seen Goku do back in his early days. I mean, because think about it right quick, right? There was a point where Goku couldn't stand up, or he struggled to stand up on King Kai's planet, which was the same gravity as Bardock's home planet, which he's easily moving around. Like, there was a time Goku could barely move on this gravity, while Bardock can effortlessly move in this gravity, guys. So yeah, even Goku back in these days could lift giant beings that weigh over hundreds or even 200 tons based on certain calculations. Like, yeah, and he couldn't move around in 10 times gravity, and he still could lift this kind of weight. What do you think Bardock could have did? Yeah, Goku's dad is pretty strong, being able to lift over 200 tons even in his base form, I would say. But then if you don't miraculously believe that, Bardock has a tail, so he can turn into this great ape form, which should be able to lift its own weight, right? I mean, great apes are pretty large compared to normal humans or normal humanoid-sized beings. I mean, if we assume the ape itself is a bare minimum 100 tons or something, and then he turns into a great ape on planet Vegeta, he will weigh 1,000 tons, so he should be able to lift that kind of weight. You see what I mean? Like, it just gets crazy. Bardock. I mean, if we really want to go by power levels, look at the power level difference between him and somebody like General Tao. I'm pretty sure Bardock and General Tao, based on this low behind power level, if they was to get in an arm wrestling contest, I'm pretty sure Bardock would win. General Tao is somebody that Kid Goku can beat up. If characters this weak can lift up pillars like this and throw it thousands of miles, how much do you think somebody like Bardock can lift who has a power level way higher? You see what I mean? When it comes to striking, everything just gets magnified even worse. He can amp his strikes up with energy or just straight up blast with massive amounts of energy. Like we see him do a combination of the two here, for example, blasting all of this stuff away, making an explosion that looks like dang near the size of a cliff, caving all this stuff in. So it's little stuff like this that shows obviously with his blast he can easily level or blow away buildings and stuff. That's pathetically easy for Dragon Ball characters. Let's deep dive even further. In Dragon Ball, power levels were a big thing for a little while. We don't really know the official power level for Bardock because technically all that movie footage, apparently they said his power level was like 10,000 up there with King Vegeta, but I wouldn't say that's accurate because that's coming from a movie. I'm only doing the manga version of Dragon Ball Super Bardock today. I would say the fairest assumption without overhyping him because he wasn't the strongest Saiyan known to man or nothing. I would say a fair assumption would be to assume he's up there with Raditz at least or have a similar power level to that or higher or slightly higher. Maybe not necessarily up there with Nappa, but Raditz seems a fair way to go for now. And I think this is fair because this is literally Bardock's son. So I think this is fair. During this time period, Raditz had a higher power level than Piccolo. And if we take the power level seriously, you got to look at what Piccolo did back in these days. This is not even a super concentrated energy blast and just a casual energy blast. He could blast away planetoids like moon-sized structures. I'm talking about vaporize them back in these early days, and he wasn't a match for somebody like Raditz, which in turn would kind of imply the same for Bardock. I mean, they had to team up against Raditz, Piccolo included, and they still wasn't enough. Implied that Bardock himself could moon Shatter. Bardock isn't a saint. See, there was this race of peaceful beings. I wouldn't necessarily call them warriors or nothing. They're like peaceful beings. Bardock was a part of the forces to kind of do all this messed up stuff. It shows that the Saiyans, especially in their Great Ape form, was just too much for them. They would even do blasts, and the blast didn't really do nothing to the Great Apes. Like, this stuff should apply for Bardock. Even if it was multiple of these beings, numbers didn't seem to matter, even against one. Just to put into perspective that just random beings in this race can blast with enough force to mess up planetoids like the moon. So what do you think the Saiyans themselves can do? Notice how this great ape was in their face. He chose to shatter the moon instead of just blasting right here, implying this blast wouldn't have been enough to actually take out this Saiyan. The way Bardock and the Saiyans are portrayed, even without their great ape forms though, stated here in this panel that even without their great ape forms, they're plenty powerful enough to still do enough damage to these beings that can blast away moons and stuff. You see what I mean? They're making jokes of beings that can blast away moons. So to be more fair, he could blast away moons like this in his base state with laughable ease. This is nowhere near his limit. Like, if there's beings that can incinerate a moon and you're implied to be leagues above those beings, what does that say about you? What do you think would happen if he actually entered Great Ape mode? Yeah, the planet needs to run. This is a good way to really understand the power levels. Master Roshi, when he was pretending to be somebody else, literally had a power level of 180 when he blasted away the moon. I will admit, he was burnt out after it, but the moon was gone. And Piccolo at this point in time had a power level of 400, and somebody that had the power level of 180 has enough blast power to destroy the moon. But when the guy that does it that has a power level of 400, it's with a lot more ease. While when Master Roshi did it here, he was kind of drained. What does this have to do with Bardock? Well, there's beings that have a higher power level than 180. Like this Namekian right here, for example, he treats like a literal joke, even off guard with one of his arms occupied, even though his power was 213, meaning that's higher than Master Roshi's that blew up the moon. The Namekians that have a power level far more needed to destroy the moon, he's just blocking their attacks with ease. Like, power levels aren't exactly the most linear thing ever, but like, yeah, if you got a higher power level, you got more blast power. That's pretty self-explanatory, especially if you have key control. If somebody with a power level of 180 can blow away the moon, how much blast power do you think somebody has that has the power of 1200? That's like over 5 times the amount needed to destroy the moon. Raditz is Bardock's son. Bardock should be able to do this too and be way stronger than Raditz. You see what I mean? So when I say he can blow away the moon, I'm talking about, when I say laughable ease, I mean laughable ease. Like when it comes to Bardock, this should be a no-brainer. I mean, there's beings with even lower power levels that talk about Like they state they could destroy the entire planet Earth, like Demon King Piccolo. Like this is just a statement, but hey, the size of the Earth compared to the moon is pretty significant. And this being literally stated, he could annihilate the entire planet. He could be talking about the surface, but what do you guys think? Just a reminder, Bardock stopped an attack from an Namekian that had a power level of 213. And this Demon King Piccolo being is apparently around that same range of power. You see what I mean? Do you think it's in the realm of possibility of Bardock in his base state to be able to destroy a planet like Earth, a planet as durable as Earth? His strikes can hit as hard with enough energy to destroy the Earth? Blow it up? Like, I know these are just statements, though we actually haven't seen him do this, but due to the way Dragon Ball, the series as a whole, is written, when they say stuff like this, it makes you want to believe it considering how much planet-busting stuff happens in this show. They make planet-busting look so easy in this series that when they say stuff without proof, it makes you want to believe it. Namekians like Piccolo back in the day could blast away the moon and incinerate it like this, but this is what happens when he tries to blast Raditz. Like his armor's not even hurt, but look at the ground. Yeah, so he got blasted, but it didn't affect Raditz. This kind of stuff should apply for Bardock. You see, when it comes to his fighting power, there's implications he's not a low class based on his battle with this being on his gas, a young gas years ago. Now, there's times where Bardock might be able to produce more power because in this fight, he was technically outclassed, even talking about how his hits don't feel like nothing and was literally getting handled pretty bad. Yo, he went from being outmatched to getting some type of evolution to where he pushed past his prior limits to where the opponent that was handling him at first was shocked, even without the Great Ape transformation. He could barely nick and hurt this being. Now he's damaging him way worse. This being even says, wait a minute, their only power up is a Great Ape form. Why is he not in Great Ape form still giving me this much trouble? Like, did Bardock get a legit 10 times boost without the Great Ape power up? That's the big question because the fight just completely turned the other way into Bardock's favor. But this did seem to burn out Bardock. So without overhyping Bardock and stuff, destroying a planet like Earth seems valid based on his son having a 5 times higher power level plus than beings that can destroy the moon or vaporize it. Destroying a planet the size of Earth seems very reasonable. And then the Great Ape just makes it worse. And of course, this kind of stuff should be a no-brainer, just like how he can hit with this much weight with his punches and stuff. His body can endure similar energy or strikes like this too. Planet-busting strikes to the face, he can still keep fighting after all of this. So Bardock and him have all this blast power, but yeah, when it comes to speed, it's the same concept. Dragon Ball Z characters usually have impressive combat speed. Even Bardock's son has impressive combat speed. Reacting to beings at super speed. Well, how fast are we talking? Well, when it comes to speed in Dragon Ball Z, it's very simple. Ki is a big thing in this universe, and Ki Blast can move really fast. Like, even early days Ki Blast can travel from the Earth to the moon in less than 15 seconds, guys. Beings that are comparable to each other have to combat against this kind of blast all the time. When it comes to speed, the way this is animated, this did not take that long. We've seen Bardock actually react to Ki Blast. It's like a standard thing. He swiped them away, shows his fighting speed and reflexes, just casually reacting to this stuff and punching and kicking. Even if we assume this beam took 5 seconds to get to the moon, even though we know it didn't, but let's just assume it did, that would still be 1/4 the speed of light. If we assume 2 seconds, 1 second, half a second, Bardock would bare minimally have the fighting speed of light speed, just lowballing it like this. I mean, he just really lacks screen time, but it feels like I'm underselling him even saying he's only light speed. He's definitely way faster than that. This is a bare minimum. It's just that fighting speed and combat speed is a big thing in Dragon Ball, and based on where he's at in the tiers, he has to be over the speed of light. Reacting to characters that are on similar power level to him that shoot beams like this on a consistent basis that are this fast. Reacting, blocking, and deflecting this kind of stuff with the swipe of his hand. But yeah, as strong as Bardock is, he has his limits. He's an early Dragon Ball Z series type of character, one could say. You know what I mean? Like beings like Frieza, for example, even in his base form in the early days, he did not have enough blast power to overcome, even though he gave it everything he had. Frieza's blast was just too much for Bardock. But yeah, he's still a Saiyan that can shatter planets. But what do you guys think? Do you respect Goku's father in the Dragon Ball Super manga series? I want to hear what you guys think. Bardock believes you should blast that like button real quick. It would really help out a lot. And thanks for the donations, everybody. Bardock. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.